Welcome to the Newtype podcast, the new podcast with myself, Lone Crit, Young Kaiser, and CBF.
And so, I'm Codeblaze Fate.
Sup, I'm Young Kaiser, or Kaiser Shonen.
And we
So-
are all three space Newtypes from my anime list.
Hey, that's
Well,
space
Annie
autists.
list specifically. Yeah, Yeah, first of all, I'm not on my anime list anymore. I'm in the Annie list, the superior website. And second of all, that is space autismo to you, good sir.
Oh, Kaiser, I didn't
yes,
know you were
my
a Nazi.
mistake.
Did you just assume my race?
No, he's not a Nazi, he's a zombie.
Kaiser, I can literally see you. Oh, yeah, that's what a Kaiser is. Kaiser's a zombie.
Oh, and what does that make you, a fucking Titan?
No, that makes me an Earth Federation Chad.
And I'm just a Hado.
Oh yeah, the same Earth Federation that basically kind of pushed the war into happening by like fucking being the Britain to the Space Noids Americas.
Allegedly.
Hashtag zombies did nothing wrong.
Hashtag fake news.
What do you mean fake news? There's an entire movie trilogy full of this shit.
No,
Don't
there
play me
isn't.
like that.
That's fabricated evidence.
Oh yeah, like that's just like Shar trying to make like fucking propaganda about the Earth Federation's past. Now they caused the war.
That's what the origin is.
Yeah, it's all
It's literally
Shar
Char propaganda.
It's
No.
Neo-Zeon propaganda.
Incorrect. It wasn't Shah, it was Chad Gamma Zabi. Based Gamma, never forget.
Never forget.
Yeah.
Even though we're on different sides, that
But
man
yeah.
was a hero. Regardless, I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
enough of an introduction. So, what have you guys been watching recently?
Well, let's see. One thing I have been really getting into lately is Molcar, if anyone of you has heard of that.
I have no idea what
think I
that
might
is.
Me
Really?
neither. I might have heard of it, but I think I don't know anything about it.
It's basically like a really fun stop motion series where it's like 2.5 minutes of just like hamsters that are cars.
Oh, that no,
Like,
wait,
just
yeah,
thinking cars, yeah.
yeah. I've been group watching that in one of the servers we hang at. Yeah, like that show is fucking funny. Unironically, probably like the most creative show of this season. Anyone
Yeah,
watching
it's
this,
just
they
so
should
much
definitely
fun.
watch it.
So I'm hearing hamster wacky races. Can I get confirmation on that?
Well, only one episode is like that, and it is
Yeah.
downright hilarious. It's Hamster Wacky
great.
Racers and Hamster Mario Kart.
Well then, anime
Yeah.
saved.
Exactly.
And-
But Lone Crit. You gotta remember, all right. No matter how great the show is, it's not a human story. Not compared to My Hero Academia.
Ah yes, My Hero Academia, the only human story.
The only human story. Okay. Fucking Cowboy Bebop, get that shit out of here.
Hajime
Alright,
no
fucking
Ippo,
global-
not a human story.
Go again,
Gundam,
Roku
not a
Rakugo
human
Shinju.
story.
Fake shit.
Yeah, fake shit. I'll fucking piss on its fucking grave. If you even address that shit in comparison to the greatness that is Deku's throbbing penis.
Samurai X,
Satoshi
more like
Kon is a
Samurai
hack
shit.
compared to Horikoshi. You heard it here
Yeah.
first.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay, Satoshi Kon does not deserve to suck Kohei Horikoshi's dick.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's absolutely true. Let's get back to our sincere opinions now.
Yeah, just for having for
Okay.
having the arrogance to make manga in Kohei Horikoshi's presence, we must dig up Cone's corpse and spit on it.
And so we can fuck him to death again.
Yes.
No, we have to make him we have to make him finish Dream Machine. Then we're done.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
After Dream Machine.
We have to use our ill intent for good purposes.
Exactly.
Yeah, we
Exactly
must
what
save
Proper
anti-heroes
Madhouse
do.
Yes.
Yes.
with this non-human story.
This non-human. Well, specifically, the show we're talking about is about hamsters, so
There are barely
it's
any humans in it, and they're only just like their own small gags because they're driving the cars that are
Yeah.
sentient and can drive themselves. Then they're like fun movie parody things too. They do like there's an Indiana Jones-ish episode. They also just
Mhm.
straight up had like a Magical Girl type episode as well.
Yeah, they had like a zombie episode, which was really funny.
You know, this reminds me of that time when Kamen Rider Drive for the Kamen Rider Sango movie actually did or was going to do Kamen Rider Wacky Races, and it seemed great. Kamen Rider Wizard was just like opening portals, bringing out giant hands, and smacking bitches left and right.
As
Best
you
wizard-
do.
As you do.
As you
With
do.
great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And you show that clip.
Yeah, meanwhile, Kaiser, what have you been watching recently?
Well, a show that I've one of the shows that I finally managed to sit down and finish was of course the original Full Metal Alchemist. And it's just I know that not all the stuff in the friggin' show was part of the manga. It diverged very, very quickly. But it's surprising how well the show ended up despite all of that, which is incredible. And I know, it's typical gospel at this point that FMA is pretty much the golden butthole of all shonen, but it's true. We say it because it's true.
So what you're saying is that authorial intent is overrated.
I'm saying that authorial intent has a small pee-pee next to good storytelling.
Of course.
So much like Rei Amuro relative to Char as a massive penis.
Exactly.
So this confirms that we all at least somewhat believe in death of the author.
Yeah,
Yes.
I very
Well,
firmly
I
believe
thought
in death
most-
of the author.
Yeah, I thought most people. You know what? I think that's a credit to how enlightened us space autismos are.
Hey,
that we can
that is
understand these
Newtypes?
basic literary concepts.
That is Newtypes to you, Kaiser.
Oh, excuse me. I have
Fucking-
misspoken.
Fucking space neurodivergentist.
Okay, then
Yeah.
not imagine being an old type and not abiding by death of the author. Pretty
Imagine
fucking
not being able to change the course of history.
exactly.
Yeah, imagine being an old type and having a social life and a girlfriend.
Oh please, I'm a new type and I have both.
And I'm a
Get
new
the
type
fuck
and I
out.
have one of those things.
Get the fuck out of this cafe, out of this manga cafe, CBF. You are causing
No,
a
I
scene.
designed it.
You are upsetting
I
the
helped
other
design-
non-existent patrons.
I mean, let's be honest, by this point they probably already left. But going back on topic, a lot of what anime does is really good. But another anime that I finished recently was Mushishi.
Neat.
Based.
Yeah.
That's not the one I heard
Ju-
great things about.
I personally, I wouldn't really put it as high as a lot of people seem to think it does. Mostly because as good as the episodic stuff is, and a lot of the stories are pretty damn good, they're still they still plateau at very, very competent, not like great, right? Like every episode is about ranging from like a 6 to a 7.
Like everything's
And
pretty good, but nothing's like overwhelmingly powerful for you, I guess.
yeah, yeah, at least none that I can really say. And most of it has to do with like, you know, like I'm not saying like, oh, the side characters need to be super like dynamic or anything like that. It's just that a lot of what happens in each of these stories, while they are done really well, they're still not plateauing at like a higher level or something. So at the end
Okay.
of the day, the show is just really, really good and has insanely incredible atmosphere and like its own sort of world building. But aside from that, it's pretty good, and that's about it.
By the
Yeah.
way, I've heard
I got a
like in
feeling I'll
regards to tone.
probably like it about as much as I like Natsume, because that's also like a similar thing. Only
Yeah,
some.
I was about to draw that comparison where I was gonna ask. I've heard that like Mushishi in either story or attitude is somewhat similar to Natsume, and I'm curious about what you'd say about that, especially in regard to how the protagonists come off. Because on one hand, Ginko is awesome. On the other hand, based Hiroshi Kamiya voicing Natsume.
Cool. I don't think I ever really seen Natsume though, so I'm not sure if I can make that comparison.
I haven't
From what
seen
I
it either.
heard
But
that uh also none of us can actually do a full comparison because none of us have seen both. Damn.
hmm.
Maybe one day. All I've seen is a bit of Mushishi. But you know what I have seen? A bit of Kino, which I hear is similar. So I get a stake in this.
I
No, I
mean,
haven't
yeah,
seen that either.
You
yeah.
should.
But like, what aspects of
Mhm.
Natsume have you heard about that like kind of like drew that you can probably draw like a comparison with Mushishi specifically, if you can remember
It's
anyway.
similar in that it's similar in that it's a very episodic show where a guy often involves a whole bunch of spirits that have, or yokai rather, that have their own just sort of like usually emotionally
Hmm.
based or sometimes slightly action-packed episodes or bi-episodic stories. They're often
Right.
it doesn't take in the environment quite as often as I heard Mushishi does. It's less atmospheric, but tends to be
Hmm.
rather emotional, especially the episodes where it involves the main character Natsume, because he's been through so much shit leading up to this point.
Yeah. Okay. Um.
And that way it's also you can
Yeah.
also compare it to Matsukai no Yome slightly.
Actually, I'm
Nah,
curious.
yeah. I wouldn't compare it to Yome at all.
I am curious.
But go ahead.
The concept slightly.
How involved is Natsume in regard to his exposure and fallibility to the spirits? Because one of the things that I like the most in Mushishi, what I saw about it, is that even Ginko, the protagonist, who's a specialist on the Mushi and knows just about everything that he can about them, as far as I remember at least, is still beholden to their powers, and by extension, is still beholden to nature. He's still,
Yeah.
on similar footing to everybody else.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Meanwhile,
especially since they established. Sorry, but just this quick thing, they established that early on in the show that number one, he doesn't know about like all Mushi or how even the ones he know about can like uh, react to certain situations or circumstances. Number two, he's even more beholden to what they do than normal people are because he just naturally attracts them as a result of his past experiences.
Sounds like some spiritual new type energy to me.
Exactly. Go ahead, CBF.
yeah, meanwhile for Natsume, it's a genetic thing where he like not everyone can experience yokais, but he can, so he's been haunted by them because almost no one around him can. So
Mm-hmm.
eventually he's able to get past that and start actually taking some semblance of agency, but he's generally pretty weak in comparison to a lot of them and has to rely on some tricks or some friends and their tricks in order to help deal with them if anything has to get violent or if they have to like trap one of them or anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's not. I mean, he's underpowered. he's basically at the point where now he's able to interact with them without necessarily being tormented by them. It's part of the principle, like part of the concept of the show that he's been haunted by them for years, and that's part of why he's very detached and kind of depressed with a lot of people in general.
Oh yeah, I've
Hmm.
seen pictures of Natsume and he seems to exude big apathetic energy. By the way, just bring it out there,
Yeah.
this actually reminds me a bit, the way you describe it, of a show I really like that I don't think either of you have seen, called The Morose Mononokean. That again, big fan of, saw season 1 I think all in one day, and then season 2 while it was airing. And it has something similar, except
Okay.
it has one spiritual specialist, um, who has the ability to suppress yokai if he really needs to, and then it has an underpowered protagonist that's just quite friendly and gets along with yokai sometimes, who voluntarily works with the other guy who occupies a special post called that of the Master of the Mononokean, as a sort of spiritual intermediary between spiritual matters and mundane world matters. After
Hmm.
like he helped the first guy, the human guy, deal with a yokai problem of his own, that to a large degree had to do with a misunderstanding that was putting a lot of strain on his body and gradually weakening him. And it also has a really nice color palette and a baller ass first OP.
Okay.
Gotcha.
One last thing about Mushishi that I really like, though, in regards to this sort of like format of storytelling, because stories about fucking vagabonds, and going around, you know, oh, they go to a random place, see some spiritual shit going on, and like flop their dick out, like problem solved by the episode, right? That's the typical thing. But one of the things I really like about Mushishi is that literally more than half the time, the solution isn't like, since the Mushi, the creatures in the show aren't exactly like antagonistic. Like the show treats them more like, hey, antibodies or mitochondria or animals and shit like that. Just things that are just naturally part of the environment.
Yeah, like yokai,
So
natural extensions of nature and the natural world.
yes,
Hmm.
exactly. So there are a bunch of situations where the solution in the episode, there really isn't necessarily like a typical conclusion. Like things conclude, but there's still a sense that like, hey, it doesn't have to necessarily be like, oh, like the Mushi's just gone. Like there are times where that needs to be the case, but other times it's all about like just kind of living with the problem in a weird way. In a similar vein as like some at certain points in like early Monogatari, right? Um,
Nice.
some yeah. So that sort of dynamic, and the fact that they never go all like Mushi or bad, okay, it's like really, really appreciated to me.
Actually, do almost any anime or manga do that, now that I think about it?
And then there's a good portion that kind of do, especially ones about like yokai and shit. But that's mostly
Yeah.
because with yokai, they kind of tend to like give them a lot more like personality.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, speaking of yokai, today I watched the movie for the series BEM from like last year or the year before that, called BEM Become Human, a series that Kaiser, you and I have discussed before, and I've discussed with with CBF. He hasn't seen it, but yeah, I like binged that shit, or anyway watched it quite quickly several weeks ago, and now today I watched the movie, which is a sequel to the series, and it's basically like, actually, context. The series, BEM, or Yokai Ningen BEM, Yokai Human BEM, is a series about 3 yokai, one adult man called Bem, one elder teenage girl called Bella, and one young boy called Bello, that have all lived for an indefinite amount of time that is likely hundreds of years. that settle in a very certain crime-ridden city that's split down the middle by a bridge between the rich, advanced area and the poor, pathetic slums, where whatever crimes are allowed to go.
Symbolism.
Yeah. Where whatever crimes are allowed to just go unpunished. And the three of them, after converging on this city, make it their existence's mission to protect humans from genetically augmented / mutated humans that seek to do them harm, under the belief that, for seemingly no reason, if they help enough human beings, they themselves will one day be able to become human, which is their ultimate goal, to become human and live and die as human beings. And the movie's a sequel to the series, where basically it's like, it pulls a Truman Show. It has one of the characters whose memories are erased, and for some reason he's like in this completely fabricated environment that's fabricated by this corporation that's using his cells to make super soldiers, while the young boy yokai Bello is fighting these mutant super soldiers that are created with Bem's DNA, and Bella is just trying to live as a normal human being, specifically as a waitress, as always, whereas in the series she was predominantly living as a student.
Gotcha. And what do you say
So
the
what
movie
you're
was called again?
saying is,
Sorry,
go
you
ahead.
first.
no. Yeah,
What do you
go
say the
ahead.
movie was called again?
The movie is called Bem Become Human, and the series itself is
Don't
just
you
called
mean
Bem.
Detroit Become Human?
Why do I talk
We
to
don't
you?
talk about that.
Why do I talk
We
to any
we
of
do
you?
not talk about that. I wasn't the one who mentioned that shit. I am with you. We do not mention David Cage in this house. Okay? In this cafe. I'm sorry. Well,
In
it's
fact-
kind of a house.
in
Yeah,
fact,
it's a
who are
cafe.
you?
Get it right, Kaiser.
In fact, who are you, weird little Harrow robot man? Why the fuck aren't you hanging out with Amuro being a massive space pain in the ass?
I don't know. I've been with too many of these Gundam pilots. I just decided I had enough of warfare, so I just started life here. Or rather, I started life in this city before I wound up here.
And so instead of annoying them, you decided to annoy us and bring up stupid fucking references. Congratulations. Truly a step up in life
Silence,
this
Mr.
is.
Kamen Rider, you do the same.
I protect humanity from the forces of
I mean-
evil, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I
and
help
apparently,
protect humanity from the forces of evil.
And apparently,
Whatever that was meaning.
and apparently getting very good at gymnastics because you're sucking your own dick pretty well, my guy. But anyways,
Thank you, I
I
do a lot of
believe that
yoga.
it's about your time. But yeah, I watched a bit of like them when it was coming out, and I think I saw like all of the main series stuff. And like it has some of the weirdest like publication history too, because there are two other installments, like one back in like old as balls times, and the other one in less old as balls times, and then there's this one.
Yeah, the other one is
Um,
from 2006. I've never seen it, but it has such a kick-ass opening.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But like in regards to this installment, I liked, I liked the initial premise of it, and its presentation isn't bad. I just kind of found it a little bit meh as I kind of went on. It just kind of fell off it in a way.
That's unfortunate. I actually really liked it towards the end. I really like the idea of
Really?
even though the three yokai aren't human beings, they can be intrinsically the same as humans just through their efforts to justify their existence by doing things we typically
Oh, yeah.
associate like with humans, not only by living as them, but also through what they do and why they do that beyond just I want to be human. And actually the movie takes that an interesting step further, where when Bem is being brainwashed, again, Truman Show style, to be like in this environment and think he's just some ordinary guy and that's just what life is. wherein which, by the way, he's named Belm, because of course, if he were to be any ethnicity, it would apparently be German. I think the movie really missed a trick there, because it makes it apparent quickly enough that that he's there against his will. But what I think would be really cool if they kept it more ambiguous, the idea of, hey, he might have actually been chosen. He may have chosen to have his memories erased so he can live as a human despite not being one. Voluntarily in order and doing some kind of deal, and only backing away from that after learning that his cells were used to make like genetically augmented yokai human super soldiers. But they didn't do that. No, he was like kidnapped and drugged and shit. And it's like, oh, why movie? Why do you have to do that? Because then that actually has some like conflict for the character, but instead it focuses more on just him discovering like that shit's a bit weird, which by the way, that's another thing. The Truman Show has like a lot of little things that tick Truman off to the idea that something's very, very fucky, like when the stage light falls from the ceiling, and only then does he start acting out. Bem doesn't have that. It only has some like very nothingy things, and then at some point he just decides to stop taking the pills that suppress his memories, that I thought was kinda lame. Could have had like a little bit more of a trigger for like him to start not taking his pills and realizing that things are a bit fucky, but whatever. Ending of the movie also just like retconned some stuff from the main series and changed things around in a way.
Really?
Yeah, it changed things around into things that didn't make sense. Like it brought up the idea that the yokai were made by scientists, but then is like, no, they actually normally occurred in this lab operated by scientists. But then the villain of the series was either created by some scientist in order to revive his wife, or that's what he was trying to do. It's like, what? Just no.
So
it just becomes
they,
kind of a mess.
yeah.
Also, very
Apparently.
nothing villains, and it ends similarly to the series of we fight this giant ass augmented human monster, but then it has
Because of course we do.
Yeah, but then it has less significance than in the series, because this isn't the first, like, real yokai we're encountering, because all the others in the series were mutants.
Oh. Wow, some yokai on yokai violence.
Yeah, I thought generally in that regard the film was very weak sauce, with the main draw was just the situations that that Bem was put through in regard to his internal conflict, as well as what the other yokai were choosing to do in his absence. One like going full on into the I'm gonna live as a human life, and the other way far away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah, that sounds
just
kind of
noticed-
like. Go ahead.
You know, because I just noticed now that while we were talking that now we have like 3 different kinds of yokai type shows. There's Ben that's more action oriented. There's Mushishi that's more atmosphere oriented, and now there's Natsume that's more like emotions oriented. Also,
Yeah.
it has this adorable cat who's actually one of the strongest yokai.
Ah, that's great.
Wow.
Also, you know what? Bem is actually
It's
very Toku-ish. I'd call it very dark Toku-ish. It reminds me a little bit of Garo in some regards, in like a gruesomeness.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, like gruesomeness and some of the scene and the thingy, just like the tone. It has kind of a dark, harsh, noirish tone. It's kind of a cartoony noir like Toku mystery, which I actually really like. And it has like full-on henshin sequences, which is actually reminiscent of magical girl shows, like with Sailor Moon and Mermaid Melody, if you guys have seen either of those.
I immediately thought Symphogear when he combined Toku with Henshin and Magical Girl.
Yeah, I mean, like it's still like I'd say transformation sequences are in like a lot of like weirdly superhero like esque or like, well, not superhero esque, but you know what I mean, like some Toku esque aspects in like anime in general. Like you see it a lot in shit like what was it, like Tekkaman and shit like that, or even Zetman, which I'm pretty sure Lone you've been watching, right?
Oh yeah, I'm currently watching Zetman. I'm almost done with it. It's quite meh, but yeah, it has like it has
The
ending
Zetman.
sequences and shit like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, there are some toku that, guy becomes thing. I mean, in Z-Man, he was always that way, but it's the same basic thing where somebody becomes a thing at some point in time, and then he either has to hunt things, be hunted by things, or both.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
so kind
it's
of like a
typically both.
maybe better or maybe worse version of Tokyo Ghoul.
No.
Honestly, from what little I really?
No, because Tokyo Ghoul... First of all, Tokyo Ghoul focuses a lot on the monster side of things and the monster society and their relationships with humans. But in Z-Man, Zet is an independent entity that actually works with humans against the monsters. And yeah, the monsters do have sort of their own society and factions where there's the boss that initially rebelled against the humans because they were made to fight in underground arenas. And but after that rebellion, he wants to just everybody to just pretend to be humans and live their lives and coexist. And then the real villains are just like the small faction that want to take over and like slaughter humans and assert themselves over them. So it's not exactly like Tokyo Ghoul in that regard.
Based. Okay, but these main villain guys you're talking about sound pretty based. I mean, fuck all this coexistence pussy shit, man. I can shoot fucking freaking tentacles from my nipples. I can cut through buildings. Fuck that shit.
I've never heard of any human that can do that.
Exactly, which is why we should rule over.
I refuse to believe that
Spoken
you
like
as
a true zombie.
I refuse to believe that you as an ordinary ass black man have the ability to do that.
Whoa. Why you gotta bring race in? What's going on, man? Like, come on.
Because I wanted to remind you of the joke that we're preparing for episode 2.
Let us not.
Well, now
don't
you low key kind of spoiled it, dude. Thanks for that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. What you didn't know is that as a Kamen Rider and a Space Autist, when these two powers intersect, they actually give birth to precognition. I bet you didn't know that, asshole.
We already have precognition. We're Newtypes.
Exactly. We can see time. Oh my god.
Oh, so kind of like manga readers when talking to anime watchers.
Ah!
Exactly.
We haven't actually finished the first Gundam.
Yeah, like it's so funny because like so many anime that's coming out nowadays, like I read the manga form like a year in advance, just not knowing it was going to happen. Like fucking
Jujutsu Kaisen?
Yeah, like Jujutsu Kaisen, like fucking
Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, like Chainsaw Man and I seen a little bit of Dora Hey Dora before it came out. No Guns Life. Yeah. No Guns Life was cool too.
That feeling when you're a manga reader and you want to talk about it with your anime-only friends and you actually want to fucking die waiting for them to catch up. CBF, looking at you and your motherfucking Kaguya. You refuse to be spoiled, and you're so far back I may as well call you a caveman. Like you are the first person in the Double Zeta opening, and I'm just like a big dick Amuro in the end.
No, you're Yuujinchou in the end, because he's actually the last one. Which means you somehow reverted.
But I want to be Amuro.
Because Yuujinchou was the worst of the three protagonists.
But I'm Amuro, though.
So what you're saying is that
I'm an annoying little bitch, yes.
And your mom gay. Okay.
We already knew that, don't worry.
Which mom, Kaiser?
Anyways.
I think you forget. I'm an augmented human being as a Kamen Rider. In a sense, I have many mothers.
I don't know how to respond to that. So I'm going to bring up one of the...
Well, what you should have done is pointed out that I'm a Heisei rider, and therefore I'm not an augmented human being.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, but here's the thing. You severely underestimate how my new typeism is in comparison to yours to care about such minuscule details.
Evidently, your
And you
Newtypetism doesn't allow
severely
you to use your
overestimate
eyes.
my ability to know that you're a Heisei rider.
See, evidently your Newtypetism doesn't allow you to use your eyes in this well-lit manga cafe, because then, if you were able to use them, you'd see the Joker Gaia memory on my desk. And on my side of the desk.
We'd have to know what that is, though. We don't. That's the problem.
Yes, you are
Yes,
the problem.
because I watch adult things like pictures that move.
So what you're
Yes,
saying...
we don't have time for your live action nonsense. We are
Exactly.
watching motion pictures in animation in 24 frames per second.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, see, now who's sucking their own dick?
At least mine's bigger.
You know, the outside of my body isn't the only thing that tensions.
Yes, it does.
As far as we know, yeah. But anyways,
I
another
think it's
show
time
that
we
I've been
wrap
kind
this
of
up.
been. Okay.
I think maybe it's time we wrap this up.
Oh,
Yeah, fair enough.
all right. Yeah, we can talk about some of the other stuff later.
Till next
Yeah.
time, from the Newtype Podcast.